Hello and welcome to Addicted to Animation, the weekly review series where bad anime gets roasted and good anime gets toasted with peanut butter. I'm your host Dan, and this is my review of Shiki. Now, here's an interesting little anime from back in 2010 that didn't really leave that much of an impact on the anime community, and I think that's a shame because this show is really worth your time. Shiki is the story of a small village whose residents start either dying of a mysterious disease or mysteriously leaving town without saying a word. Eventually, several characters, such as Dr. Ozaki, Natsuno Yuki, and two children whose names escape me right now, are forced into the conclusion that the town has in fact been invaded by vampires, or as they call themselves in this universe, Shiki. Now, before I start talking about why I like this show so much, I need to first address the elephant, or should I say elephants, in the room. The first episode of this series was terrible. It was full of really annoying background music that really failed to be atmospheric, and it just spent so much time focusing on the series' single most annoying character, Megami, or as I like to call her, Jar Jar Pinks, in her weird, creepy, stalkerish, why on earth is she in this series way. Now, the animation style was very pointy. When I first reviewed this show on Movie Pilot, I mistakenly believed that this was inspired by Trinity Blood. However, having seen multiple vampire anime since then, this seems to be a rather recurring theme, and thus it's really quite unoriginal. But a lot of the animated characters have very peculiar gravity-defying hair, with one guy in particular also having ridiculously big lips. Now, this show is not very good at creating a scary atmosphere as much as it tries, and you can tell they were really trying, but everything was so brightly coloured, and the atmospheric music that goes la la when the vampire's around really gets rather annoying. There's also a character who's one of the main characters in the series called Junior Monk Shishin, and he is extremely inconsistent. In one episode he says that all killing is objectively wrong, and then in the last episode he kills a guy. He says that he's all about protecting people, and then in episode 17 he betrays humanity for no reason whatsoever other than his friendship with Shiki leader Tsuneko Kirishiki. There's also the case of exactly what religion/faith he is really unclear. He seems to be Christian sometimes, but also not really share that kind of belief at all, and he dresses like he's a Buddhist monk, as do the people in the temple, and I don't know, I really don't know. And remember when I said with the animation style that I thought this show was trying and failing to emulate Trinity Blood? Well, they even got the same guy who sung the Trinity Blood theme song to sing the first theme song to Shiki, which was good, I'll admit. That it was a really good first theme song, but the second theme song to this show was awesome. Now, I'm going to finish complaining about stuff because here's the good stuff, because if anything, I was a bit nitpicky there. The writers in this show are amazing at actually reproducing what life in a village is like. They have every kind of person you get in a village, from the old gossips to those sort of strangely snobbish types who think they're above everything. As a guy who, admittedly I live just outside a village, but who spent a lot of time in the village of Gernard on the Isle of Wight, this is exactly what people in a village are like, and that is so well captured and so well presented, and the character development in this show is so brilliant with the exception of Monk Shishin, and every time a character seems to do something which is out of their character, it's revisited and properly explained in later episodes. This is something that I wish all anime did. And one thing that I also really like about this show is that it's really difficult to know who to support, because Shiki does not have any bad guys. It just has people, granted some of whom are vampires, who are pushed too far out of desperation. The writers were so good at throwing internal conflicts and moral ambiguity at us that picking a side who you want to root for in this is really impossible, and it really makes you think actually about the way you view right and wrong. Heck, even our main character, Dr. Ozaki, crossed the moral event horizon several times when you consider what he did to his wife after she was turned, and the downright callous way he manipulated and sent Chizuru into a pretty horrifying death just to prove that the vampires exist, made even worse by the fact that none of the vampires in the show actually want to kill people. The way the mindsets of both the villagers and the Shiki play out in this show is just so realistic, and you can just see how desperate scenarios lead honest people to do terrible things. And when characters are as well developed as some of the ones on this show, certain deaths are truly heartbreaking. But do not give up on this show just because it's sad, because it does have some of the most freaking hilarious moments you will ever see in any anime. For example, this crazy Willy Wonka-esque chocolate juggling funeral director.
Alright everybody, he's dead! The time has come to say the final goodbye!
And then there's Mr. Yuki, Natsuno's dad, who, after admittedly very tragic circumstances, goes completely and utterly nuts. And I'm not even going to spoil that scene for you, but I just could not stop laughing from it. With that said, Shiki is definitely not a comedy. It's not a horror really either, it's a tragedy, but the ending, while bittersweet, does not disappoint, and it wraps up everything in exactly the way it should, tying up every single character arc and storyline beautifully. So, yes, it is a flawed show, and it can seem a bit messy at times, but it's utterly unique, and it's really well animated, and it is really, really worth your time watching. I'm Dan. I give this show 7.8 stars out of 10. Thank you for watching.